So we begin this week's story with Jesus amidst transition. He's on the border of one land and another. He is traveling towards his eventual end. He is on the move. And it is here that he meets these individuals with their skin issues, this mixed pack of people. It isn't that they sought him out in large part. At least it doesn't appear that they were on a mission to meet him. They don't outright ask to be washed of their illness either. They ask for mercy. And in a similar way, Jesus doesn't offer them healing, or promise it, or pray over it, or tell them anything else. He tells them just to go show themselves to the priests. He invites them to reintegrate into their faith story. It is in this acceptance of the invitation that we are told there is healing or cleansing or release from their skin ailments. The acceptance of the invitation. This is where transition happens. This is the borderlands that Jesus embarks on through his pilgrimage. It is this piece of the reading that really has captivated me this week. Yes, there is healing in this moment of transition, but it's almost just an extraneous detail, easily rushed past, swept under the rug, because it is so much a part of who Jesus was and what he cared about. Jesus' healing is the genre of this story, but there is so much more detail here that is important to the identities of the time, in that ask and response, in their ability to follow directions, or not, as it happens. It takes place on the borders. It takes border people to be changed. This is where Jesus placed his ministry, in these places of thinness between what we pretend are important divisions. In the same way that Jesus challenged borders, we too are needed to challenge them as well. And it goes beyond just happening in a border space, but it happens with border people. This group of people, joined together by their shared suffering and societal exclusion, are inclusive, at least of one person from that other faith. It's a reminder that in the places of pain and injustice, community is made by other means. One biblical commentator I read compared the Samaritan Jew borderline as one similar to historic Catholic and Protestant battles, or maybe the modern divisions between different Protestant traditions. Similar but not the same faith ancestors and traditions, areas of commonality and areas of deep division. Their daily torment, however, has pushed them beyond these differences to see that they will fare better together. It is not our divisions that bring us together, but our commonalities. This is the work to be done in community today, in the borders of our world. Whether it is the border between Hershey and Hummelstown, or Harrisburg and the suburbs, or rural and urban and suburban, the borders of Pennsylvania, or even of this nation. The borders of our world are where Jesus travels to be present to those who make community amidst those divisions. When they ask for mercy, what are they truly asking for? As outcasts to society, it's possible that they were just asking not to be humiliated or turned in for the offense of gathering together. By law, these individuals were supposed to remain outside of town and live alone, yelling before themselves, "Unclean!" But they don't start with that. They start with, "Have mercy on me." Living outside of town and remaining alone this is not what these folks are doing. Maybe they're not looking for healing, just acknowledgement. Certainly, we all can attest to the times when acknowledgement is mercy. Those who have felt the need to hide a true self, to live a false-fronted life, those in recovery from addictions, those living with depression and anxiety. We don't always need a body healing to take place, but recognition, awareness, absolutely. To be true to oneself before God can certainly be scary, but yet liberating. Being true to oneself before community, however, might be intimidating or panic-inducing. This recognition is what the men receive regardless of what they wanted. And their cleansing and healing is just a parting gift for accepting Jesus as an invitation to engage. Jesus says to them, I see you. I know you for who you are, and I accept it. I accept your illness, your border-bonded friendship, your place in society. But rather than just accept how you are, I will be in solidarity with you on the road ahead, the hard times and the rewarding ones. Jesus shows his solidarity with them and releases this group to be reassessed and restored to their community, which can only happen with the legal authority of the priests. And yet, it is this, that the 10th man, that Samaritan, can you believe it, turns his back on and comes running back to Jesus. The completion of his restoration, the verification by the priest should have been of critical importance to him so that he could get on with his life. Without that validation, he would continue to be unclean, outcasted, that he had been already living. It's a crucial segment of the interaction, then, that he stops to show some gratitude. It is as if the gratitude outweighs his concern for the rules of society, health, and faith regulations. And maybe you're sitting there thinking to yourselves, of course it should. Of course our gratitude should outweigh our concern for the guidelines. There should always be a time for gratitude. But there are limits to what that should look like, and in what context it's deemed appropriate or not. To some, it would seem to be a snubbing of others to show gratitude in that moment. To others, it would be drawing attention away from the matter at hand. And for all of these reasons, we find ways and times to show gratitude that feel societally appropriate. What is happening here, however, is outside that societal appropriateness. If someone purchased a concert ticket or a theater or a movie ticket for you and went to the concert with you, do you pull them out into the hall at a pivotal moment to thank them? Is it the first chords start to play and you say, oh, by the way, really, thank you, thank you, thank you? Not likely. Doing so would put the focus on you rather than the gratitude. It is much more likely that you'd wait for an opportune moment to offer your truly heartfelt thanks. So what is different here in this moment of gratitude, outside of the traditional suitable expectation? And why is it that this man gets the thumbs up from Jesus? None of the 10 have their healing revoked, return to give thanks or not. They are all cleansed and will go on their way. But what is different is the kind of mercy and community found in the 9 who continue on their way to the priest and the one who comes back. For all of them, faith has made them well. For all of them, mercy has been expressed. For all of them, the limitations of the borders that contain are broken open, and for all of them, a new vision for life is created. So I don't really have an answer for you. In our first reading, Jeremiah ends with, "Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to God on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your own." as we ponder on these healed and transformed border people, as I ponder on this border space, this liminality that Jesus travels between what is appropriate and what is actually happening, these words come back to me. The places in which we are found is the place God has placed us. For the people who struggled in exile, it was an assertion that finding meaning where they were is critical to continuing vitality. They could not wait just for the terror to be over. They could not distance themselves from the area in which they found themselves. No, they must, with God's commanding voice, engage deeper in the place that surrounds, if they're to find any goodness for themselves. So what will these 10 men do when they have fully received their acknowledgement, their respect, their restoration? Will they keep their hearts open to those who also suffer, who have suffered from skin diseases themselves? Will the 9 act differently than the 1? Will their histories be kept as a shameful secret, or lived out as an honest awareness of the new life that they can now make for themselves? Will their thankfulness open their eyes to new ways of acknowledgement needed? How will they live into the welfare of community? How will we seek the welfare of the community? Whether or not we did it the right way or not, we are healed and liberated and set free with God's open heart and love before us. On this weekend where we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, we call ourselves to the borders of lands that did not belong to us, and yet in which we find ourselves. And we ask ourselves to seek the goodness of the peoples on the lands of the Susquehannock and Iroquois confederations, in homes built by our hands or those of generations ago, in this church built of rock from the local quarry. We situate ourselves as people still amidst the borders too. Borders of history, borders of tradition, and borders of grace. And we have capacity to be the group of afflicted people who come asking for mercy. And we also have the capacity to be the ones looking toward kinship and goodness and border crossing for God's love. Whether we follow the rules or not, we come with hearts full of gratitude that overflow. So will you be with me as we run fragrantly ahead, shouting our gratitude that God is with us in this work, so that we also can be the 9 to prepare the next step of sharing in justice and sharing God's compassion.